What's up, you guys? So the Meagan Good Franklin has a new movie coming out. So she's been doing interviews and talking about things that have gone viral in her career in her promotion of the movie. And she recently did an interview with the Daily Beast and talked about the viral moment when she wore a plunging, beautiful velvet blue dress to the BET Awards in 2013. And BET actually changed up what she was doing and asked her to present a gospel music award in that plunging dress. And we're going to get into her movie in a second because I think it's going to be a good one. But first, I want to get into her interview with the Daily Beast. She said, it's interesting because if you're able to track down any interview, I've made it a point to always mention God. That's the reason for everything. Y'all get that? She said, I was never the best, the prettiest, or the most talented, but everything I've done is because God has allowed it. She sound like Paul right here. She sound like Paul. Anyway, she went on to say, when Devon and I got together, I really came under fire from a lot of Christians and folks in the church. So she separates Christians and folks in the church. And I feel like it's a reason for that. And then she goes on to say, and then it was the BET Awards and the blue dress that I wore. And at the 11th hour, when they switched me from giving out a rap award to giving out a gospel award. Now, from reading this interview, my whole point of view from that situation where she had on that plunging blue dress and everyone was dragging her, my whole point of view has changed because I thought it was just like a happenstance that she ended up presenting a gospel award. I thought, you know, with award shows, a lot of things change at the last minute. Ask B. Scott. A lot of things change at the last minute. And I thought it was just a happenstance that they had her present a gospel award at that show. But now I believe they purposely switched her up to present a gospel award because of the dress she had on. Like they were producing it like a reality TV show. Like the reality TV show producers produce almost every scene as a setup. And I really feel like it was a setup. But continuing, she said, and then I got home and saw that I was trending on Twitter with all these Christians just dragging me. And I was like, this is horribly painful because it's the one community that's supposed to be the safe community and that represents the core of my identity that's attacking me. And then she goes on to say the next year for the BET Awards, they reached out to have me present. And the script was with me and Nick Cannon. And he was going, hey, Meagan, I see that you're in a different dress this year, a lot more covered up. And she was supposed to say, ha, ha, ha. Like she was supposed to laugh about it. And she said she called them when they gave her that script. She called them. But she said she called them and said, I don't feel like this is funny. For one, that was not a funny experience. It was traumatizing. And two, I'm not going to go up there and act like I'm apologizing to someone when I have nothing to apologize for. Okay, they set her up. At this point, I think it's clear that they set her up to present that gospel award in that dress. It was a whole setup. And she said their response was, you either say it or you don't present. And she said, so I was like, okay, then I won't present. So she stuck to her guns. And she said, when I got off the phone, I cried. I was like, would you do this to Gabrielle Union or to Raji? You have this perception of me, and it's crazy that you want to hold me to what that should be. I'm not going for it. No one will ever control what I do or how I do it. It always has to be spirit-led and how I feel God feels about it. It took me a long time to not feel so hurt and so affected. Now, one of the reasons I do feel like, looking back, I do feel like BET tried to play her by having her present a gospel award. Like once they saw her there with her husband, and her husband happens to be a preacher, not a pastor, but a preacher. Once they saw her there with her Christian husband, who is a preacher, and they saw her in that dress, I do feel like BET played her just like they tried to play B. Scott when they asked him to present or host the BET red carpet. And this was the same year. I don't know who was running the show that year, but it was all the same year. Love B. Scott wrote an open letter that year about his experience, and he said, after interviewing AJ Calloway for my first segment, I was literally yanked backstage and told that my look from head to toe wasn't acceptable, quote unquote, wasn't acceptable. He said, they asked me to pull my hair back. They asked me to change my attire. And he said, I was returned to my trailer and forced to change into one of the other outfits while other producers waited outside. And I feel like it's a similar situation with what happened to Meagan Good. Someone saw her there in that plunging dress, taking pictures with her husband, who is a preacher, and they weren't comfortable with it, and they decided to play her. That's what I believe. I no longer believe that it was happenstance. And that call where they decided to have her present a gospel award, it traumatized her. The backlash traumatized her. Now, as far as her movie, it is her directorial debut. The Daily Beast asked her, they said, it seemed like a labor of love. How long did it take for you to make this? And she said, it took us about 4 years to get it made. Once I read the script and fell in love with it, Tam and I went out, and there were a few places that wanted to make it, but we wanted to make it the way that we wanted to make it. We raised a little money on Kickstarter, but it wasn't enough. And then we had a private investor come in and started to pitch the project to him. And he said, stop. You had me at Black women. I was raised by all women, and I do feel like this generation needs this story. And that was that. So she was getting feedback. She was getting kind of like negative feedback because the movie is about 4 Black women. It's centered around 4 Black women. And she said, it's interesting. The general conversation was people don't want to see a Black female drama. And we would say that's not true. We've had Waiting to Exhale and Set It Off. We just haven't had it much in this generation. Those are more like 90s movies. And she said, yes, we have ensembles and comedies, but we haven't quite had anything that reminds me of the films we used to have in the 90s. And we got a lot of pushback. But we thought, no, there's an audience for this. And we just need to find someone who believes in it the way we do. So I'm going to check out her movie. I'll probably watch it tonight. She tweeted and said, if you need a big hug today, swipe. If not now, when movie premieres today. She tweeted that a few days ago. So it's now on demand. And I'll put a link to it below. She said there's also a link in her bio. But I am going to check out her movie. But I just wanted to spill the tea that it seems like what happened to her at the BET Awards in 2013 was a whole setup. It wasn't just a coincidence. It wasn't happenstance. It seems that it was a whole setup to have her present the gospel award wearing a very sexy dress, and then the next year they tried to play her again and have her come back and somewhat apologize for wearing that dress. Leave a comment and let me know what you think. As always, thanks for watching.